I was gonna wing it, but I decided to write something. And it's PFLAG, so I wanted to tell a quick family story. So I often tell the story of coming out of the closet in the car with my 3 siblings on a drive from New York City to Montvale, New Jersey. I came out about 6 minutes from my parents' house where I knew the conversation would end. And no sooner did I say that I'm gay than my siblings and I hit one of the worst traffic jams in the history of the house. And we were stuck for close to an hour in painful and palpable silence. I often tell the story of coming out to my mother on the phone a few weeks later, bafflingly yet smoothly shifting the conversation from my volunteering with Rosie O'Donnell's organization to saying, you know, she's a lesbian, to saying, you know, I'm kind of like a lesbian too, only not. To her then making me come out to everyone from my grandmother to my rabbi to random passersby in the hope that someone would set me, yes, straight. They're funny family stories. What I don't tell is that time was the most fraught time for me and my mother in my 45 years on this planet. We stopped speaking. She was half convinced that New York University had made me gay, which still makes me laugh because it kind of did. At least with the facilitation of identity development. My mom was my best friend, and without contact with her, I threw myself into super unhealthy behaviors, which New York City offered forth in abundance in 1997. What I don't tell is that what turned my mother around, and that was my 78-year-old grandmother, who one day called my mother and said, "What the hell are you doing?" And that was the kick in the pants my mother needed. My mother, to this day, calls that time in her life her biggest regret, bar none, and that means a lot to me. Fast forward 25 years, and my mother is indeed still my best friend. She calls me with some variation of the same story every couple days. Guess what about the lady who's teaching us bridge? She's a lesbian, Mom? Yes, she's a lesbian. Guess what about the guy who owns the boutique I just fell in love with? He's gay, Mom? Yes, he's gay. Guess what about the couple who just moved in 2 doors down? They're queer, Mom? No, smart Alec, but they have a gay son and he's in Ohio and you should find him. And I did. And I pretend to be annoyed by her stories, but I love that my mom is engaged in this weekly game of LGBTQ Where's Waldo. She's constantly playing. And there is no one who reads the Buckeye Flame more than my mother, literally no one. I feel comfortable saying, and I stand by this, that my mother, Terry Schneck, is the most knowledgeable person in Florida about LGBTQ issues in Ohio. There's really no question. Every Thursday, she sends me an email with her review of the 5 articles in the Spark, which stories she enjoys, which ones made her angry, and which ones she didn't think I did so well, and that I could do better. Pause. A few weeks ago, I went to the sentencing of the man who, in 2021, murdered Tierra Marie Lewis. Tierra Marie was a Black trans Clevelander who was a frequent participant in the trans wellness program right here at the center. I sat at that sentencing with Rachel, who journalistically and judicially held my hand because I had never been to a sentencing before, and Rachel has. I actually had budgeted hours. I thought we would be there for hours. It took 10 minutes. And in those 10 minutes, no one said Tierra Marie Lewis's name. Not the judge, not the defense lawyer, not the prosecutor, not the man who killed her. That story went up last week in the Spark, and my mom and I talked about it yesterday. I told her that there was no one there to speak for Tierra Marie. Her family and friends really hadn't been notified or notified well, and so there was no one there to say her name. And as Rachel saw, that story shredded me, and it shredded my mother as well. And yesterday we talked about privilege and family support and why these articles are important. I am very open about my relationship with the Buckeye Flame. On the one hand, and many of you heard me say this before, I truly have no idea what I'm doing. And on the other hand, I know without question that it's the most important thing that I've done in my life to date. I get to work with incredible people. I get to learn about journalism and writing. I get to use my ridiculous amounts of privilege to tell stories. I get to fuck things up, which I do. And I try to learn from them and I try to do better. And I have the honor, which is the biggest piece of this, of amplifying other people's stories, like the one that Rachel wrote about Tierra Marie Lewis last year, and the one that H wrote about gender affirming care, and the one that Ryan wrote about Todrick Hall, and the one BJ wrote about grocery shopping while trans in Cleveland, and the one Caitlin wrote about the Trans Voice Clinic, and tons more. And these stories have actual impact, like actual impact. And don't get me wrong, it is a humbling honor, as is the honor that you all are recognizing me with tonight. But being honest with you at PFLAG, more than any of that, I get to talk about these stories with my mom, and for me, that's the biggest honor of all. So thank you.